What is it? Why would you want to be around them? What are you going to do when you get there? Make him choose between you and her? I know you won't do that.
Is he done wrong? If he were to betray Qinghuan and had an affair with another woman, I wouldn't help.
If I'm going to leave, I'm going to at least do it with dignity.
用一段故事建筑一座城堡，回忆放进去后就不再。
Good morning, the 2nd of February 2022. You're tuned to KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya, and I'm Regina Manyara. We have so much lined up for you, including updates on what is happening in our political scene, as well as a sneak peek into matters business and sports. Talking about sports, the AFCON knockout stage is set for tomorrow, the Thursday, the 3rd of February 2022. We're still acclimatizing away from the 90 days of January. So you are in good company. If you've not had something, to warm and hot this morning, well, grab that cup or mug as you wish. And you can also get us online on our various social media platforms. You're on Facebook Live as well as YouTube on KBC Channel 1. And, get into the program. You can also respond to us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Introducing the all-female morning. Good morning, Jay.
Pam padam. How you guys doing?
Good morning.
Good. Do you know the date today is 02/02/2022?
Oh, yes.
And you can write it 2222.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good day to be alive.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Welcome to the program. I am Jane Wamboy Kamakawaida. We always appreciate that you make time to be with us here on Good Morning Kenya. We have a fantastic show lined up for you. So today on Wednesday, we always focus on matters concerning women, and women at the forefront will be coming up in not too long. But in the meantime, we will welcome you to be part of this conversation. Talk to us. Let us know where you're watching us from. Check in. We'll be giving you our social handles in just a bit. Stephanie.
Okay, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us again. It's lovely having you around with us. I'm so excited to be here because of this amazing conversations that are about to take place, of course, after we sample the various dailies that are there, keeping you updated with what has been happening and around the world. So stick with us all the way to 10 a.m. My name is Stephanie Yata, and thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Right, and a beautiful morning to you again. Just as my colleagues have mentioned, it's obviously all the time a packed up show for you, and we always appreciate you for choosing Good Morning Kenya and joining us every other morning. This morning on the roads, our focus will simply be what is happening on the section of Outer Ring Road, trying to track the various footbridges that were to be installed in that specific area. Already some have already been installed. Remember that particular road records the highest number of death cases as per the latest research. So what exactly is causing all of that, given the fact that it is the latest major road to be expanded here in the country? That is what we shall be looking on this morning. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo.
There you have it, in good company. It's an all-women captain-led team this morning. Being Wednesday, we're going to be putting matters in perspective where women are as far as leadership and governance in our various, sectors of the world, or even the economy, so to speak. So women at the forefront will be coming up in not too long. But without further ado, let us bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. You can also have a look at them on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. In not too long, we'll be speaking news. Do not go away. Good morning once again. If you're tuning in, this is KBC Channel 1, and in the headlines, I'm Regina Manyara. Business is set to resume in the National Assembly after members of Parliament overturned last week's vote that would have paralyzed House business for 6 months. In endorsing the committee, a section of lawmakers accused their colleagues of letting party politics come in the way of service delivery to Kenyans.
Parliament has officially begun its sixth session a week later after a standoff on the constitution of the House Business Committee members. A procedural motion moved by Majority Leader Amos Kimunya seeking members to rescind its last week's decision pursuant to Standing Orders 49 subsection A pushing through.
We cannot let partisan politics come into the way of what we are committed to do in this House when we sought to uphold for the welfare of society and the just government of the people.
I regret that this Parliament had to waste one whole week of transacting business, but I believe it was purely politics and grandstanding.
Members allied to Azimio la Umoja turning out in large numbers as the lawmakers unanimously revoked the law that would have put the House into paralysis.
The decision you have taken overwhelmingly to rescind your decision of Tuesday, January 25th, afternoon sitting, therefore paves the way for the leader of the majority party to proceed to the motion as listed as order number 9 on the order paper.
Consequently, the legislators endorse a 7-member list to the critical House Business Committee, a move the handshake team says will allow for timely prosecution of government business, among them the budget estimates for the 2022-2023 financial year.
Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
So we want to take advantage of this period before the nominations so that we are able to transact most of the businesses in the House, hoping that this Taga brigade, will not just be putting unnecessary handles.
Transpired on the floor of the House, we move to the corridors of justice, where a former finance and administration manager at the Water Resources Management Authority has been ordered to pay a fine of 7.64 million shillings or spend 24 years in jail for bribery and soliciting. James Ambuso Omondi was found guilty of soliciting 445,000 as well as receiving 465,000 worth of kickbacks 10 years ago while working a warmer.
An anti-corruption court has fined a former finance and administration manager at the Water Resource Management Authority, James Ambuso Omondi, heavily for corruption. Ambuso has been ordered to pay a total fine of 7,640,000 or risk a jail term of 24 years upon default.
Similarly,
in handing down the sentence, Senior Principal Magistrate Eunice Nyutu said that Ambuso had used public resources to benefit himself contrary to the law. The court found that he corruptly solicited for a benefit of cash amounting to 445,000 from Geoffrey Moria as an inducement to facilitate continuous disbursement of operations and development funds to Warma. He also corruptly received 465,000 shillings from Boniface Mbeu Mwaniki as an inducement to facilitate continuous disbursement of operations and development funds to Warma Tana catchment area. Ambuso's sentencing comes a day after Francis Zuriel Moturi, a former investment manager at the National Social Security Funds, was told to pay a fine of 2.6 billion shillings or risk spending 14 years in jail.
Indeed, fighting graft. Now on to matters health. Close to 300 Kenyan nurses are set to be deployed to the United Kingdom upon completion of their 6-week English training program to equip them with the international operation standards. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, who spoke during the launch of the training program at the Kenya Medical Teaching College in Nairobi, said it was only fair that hundreds of unemployed nurses get an opportunity to serve the world. Purity Musa with the details.
In what he termed a God-sent opportunity for the unemployed healthcare workers in the country, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said the Kenyan government was going to partner with the United Kingdom and ensure the unemployed Kenyan healthcare workers get employment in the readily available UK opportunities.
It's a real momentous occasion. This is the first time ever that we as a government have undertaken a training of this kind, where we are preparing our young people to go and work elsewhere overseas. And indeed, to prepare them, their pre-departure training, to be part of the wider training of our Kenyan young people, and to create a workforce that is internationally able, internationally qualified, and internationally recognized.
The UK has a long history of collaborating and partnering with Kenya on matters of healthcare. In January 2021, we signed a bilateral health partnership agreement and aimed at strengthening this collaboration and exploring new opportunities for working together to improve the health and well-being of our people.
Our nurses are recognized globally for the quality of education they receive and the quality of care that they are able to give.
Kagwe downplayed claims that the Kenyan training system did not meet the international standards, hence the need for the English refresher.
But I think it was fair and right that we manage this process, we formalize this process, so that Kenyans can travel to the UK not feeling as refugees, not hiding behind the scenes, but traveling there as appreciated, recognized expatriates.
The training, which commenced Tuesday, will see close to 300 healthcare providers trained during the first phase. Meanwhile, Kagwe is urging private hospitals to be reasonable with their cost of treatment, saying the exaggerated pricing was the reason for the current standoff with NHIF.
We decided yesterday that we should continue with the old contracts for now, until we reach a proper consensus on the harmonization of the contracts, so that we don't have a situation, as I said earlier, where some exorbitant charges are being meted on our people for nothing, really.
Private sector, Kagwe said, must join hands with the government if bringing Kenya's cost of treatment down was to be achieved.
An update on matters security. Now it emerges that the driver of the ill-fated matatu that ran over a landmine in Mandera on Monday failed to heed to instructions by security officers manning the roadblock along the Arabian-Mandera road to stop. The vehicle was blown up with 7 fatalities and 13 casualties reported. Survivors have recounted their ordeal as leaders in the region called for speedy investigations into the incident. Sefine Achengoma reports.
Tension remains high in Mandera County hours after an explosion claimed the lives of 7 people in Hagarso area along the Arabia-Mandera highway. Abdi Ibrahim is among the 13 people who escaped death by a whisker but were left nursing injuries after a vehicle they were traveling in ran over an improvised explosive device about 10 kilometers from Mandera town.
Before the explosions, security officers who were on the road tried to stop us, but we didn't stop. I had a loud explosion. The next thing, I found myself at the hospital, and actually, I can't explain what happened.
The motive behind the attack remains a mystery, even as officers from the Anti-Terror Police Unit and other multi-agency security personnel continue to comb the area seeking answers. One suspect was found at the scene of the attack, has maintained that he is innocent, but is currently in police custody for further interrogation.
I was not involved in the attack. I was just herding cattle in the bush. God is my witness. I don't know who dug this hole.
Leaders in the region have condemned the heinous attack and are calling on relevant authorities to beef up security in the area, which has borne the brunt of increased terror attacks.
We are appealing to the government of Kenya to come up with strategies on issues of this IED. Indeed, they should think of coming up with a technical way of handling these IEDs, detectors that can be able to detect IEDs.
We are requesting, or rather asking the President of the Republic of Kenya to invoke his powers to ensure Kenya Defense Forces safeguard the territorial integrity of this nation.
We are also asking the government to ensure that this road is completed, because if there is tarmac on this road, these incidents will reduce.
Those who sustained injuries continue to receive treatment in different hospitals across Mandera County.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on the International Finance Corporation and other World Bank constituent financial institutions to provide more support to the private sector to spark Kenya's economic growth. President Kenyatta said IFC has a potential to aid Kenya in making a lucrative investment hub through supporting the private sector in the implementation of government's Big Four agenda.
International Finance Corporation Managing Director Mukhtar Diop, who is on a 5-day visit in Kenya, Tuesday led a high-level delegation to State House, Nairobi, for a meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta and other senior government officials. During the meeting, Diop briefed President Kenyatta on the involvement of the IFC in different economic sectors under the Big Four agenda. The IFC MD said he planned to hold discussions with stakeholders in the pharmaceuticals and housing sectors to see how best they can collaborate to ensure realization of affordable healthcare and housing for Kenyans. President Kenyatta and Diop also discussed a plan that Kenya is keen on implementing to manufacture vaccines. President Kenyatta appreciated the role IFC has been playing in supporting Kenya's private sector, noting that the Big Four agenda has opened even more opportunities for increased collaboration through the country's public-private partnership program. The president said the government has come a long way in creating an enabling environment for investors in the different sectors. Diop assured the president of IFC's commitment to continue supporting Kenya's development agenda by providing inclusive financing and boosting recovery by developing the capital markets.
Now, from matters, international finance and diplomacy, so to speak, let's delve into our local politics, where Orange Democratic Movement party leader Raila Odinga is pledging focus on the country's economy revival and seal all corruption loopholes if elected president in the August 9th general election. He was speaking in Nyandarua County, where he drummed up support for his Azimio la Umoja movement.
ODM leader Raila Odinga took the Azimio la Umoja movement campaign to Olkalau region in Nyandarua County, wooing locals to support his August 9th presidential quest.
Sisi tutahakikisha kwamba gharama ya yale inputs zinarudi chini ili wakulima waweze kupata haki yao kulingana na jasho yao.
Hosted by area governor Francis Kimemia, host of lawmakers allied to the Azimio la Umoja movement, Raila held a meeting with a section of Mount Kenya leaders where he vowed to inspire prosperity and eradicate discrimination if elected president in the August 9 polls.
Vijana wamealia mambo ya ajira, kazi ndani ya serikali. Tutahakikisha kwamba hakuna county ambayo inabaguliwa. County yote utapata their fair share kwa kazi ya kiserikali, kazi ya kijeshi, kazi ya kipolisi na kadhalika.
Raila, who laid a foundation stone for the Mashujaa complex at the JM Kariuki Memorial County Referral Hospital in Nyandarua, said sealing all corruption loopholes in the government will be his top priority.
Every year we are churning in people who are coming from primary schools, secondary, tertiary and universities. 1 million people looking for jobs. Kwa hivyo mpaka we think out of the box. Tuangalie private sector ya kibinafsi. Pale ndio kazi itapatikana mingi zaidi.
Azimio affiliate leaders accused their counterparts in the Kenya Kwanza alliance of causing division and confusion in central Kenya region for selfish gains.
Tumesema mambo mengi, tukakuwekelea mambo mengi ya uongo. Leo tukiwa hapa Nyandarua, mimi nataka tuombe baba msamaha.
Haiwezekani kwamba wewe utamtusi na utamchukia Uhuru Kenyatta alafu useme unapenda watu wake. Haiwezekani.
Now we are not going to deal with a wolf ambayo imevaa ngozi ya mbuzi and is cheating us that this is person atini very good for Kenyans.
Tahakikisha vile tunasema hapa kwa county ni twahuti ya karorigi.
Politics, Imani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi has taken issue with his political opponents that he says are equating the Kenya Kwanza Pact with a tribal outfit. He was speaking in Nairobi during a campaign tour, and he called on his competitors to focus on selling their agenda.
The Kenya Kwanza Brigade was in Westlands constituency on Tuesday, wooing voters to support them in the August 9th election. Mudavadi traversed the City Park Market, Mwimuto, Kangemi and Githogoro areas as he popularized the new pact.
Kazi ni kazi. Kazi ni kazi.
Mudavadi cautioning leaders against reducing the Kenya Kwanza Pact that brought together his party, Deputy President William Ruto and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula to a tribal outfit.
Sisi katika mrengo wa Kenya Kwanza tunakuja kwa wananchi, hatuleti na serikali, hatuleti kama project, tunanyenyekea kwenu ili tuombe kura mtupatie.
Kama wewe una shida na Ruto, Musalia hana shida na Ruto. You will not, and I want to repeat, we will never give you an opportunity to choose friends for us or create enemies for us.
The ANC leader faulted the government for allegedly using taxpayers' money to campaign for Azimio la Umoja movement.
Kwa hiyo mradi yao ya Azimio, badala ya kupatia Wakenya pesa, badala ya kupatia market hii pesa, afadhali wajenge hema ya milioni 15 ili Azimio iende pale.
Leaders who accompany Mudavadi said time has come for Kenyans to be left to choose their leaders freely.
Kenya ya leo ni mwananchi wa kawaida ataamua kiongozi wake ni nani. Mambo ya project wa Kenya walikataa 2002.
Wewe huwezi kutulazimisha project na Kibaraka akuwe rais wa Kenya.
Sisi tunataka kurudisha heshima ya Mkenya.
Si kura ni zetu, si maisha ni yetu.
Ile project uko nayo ya kuletea Wakenya Raila Odinga, ile project tumekataa.
Earthquake.
A week after he unleashed what he termed the earthquake in the Bomas of Kenya, checking the political atmosphere, ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi led the Kenya Kwanza Brigade in soliciting for votes in Westlands constituency. This even as they say their pact is the best bet yet to lead Kenya.
We're on the campaign trail still, where the Democratic Party says it will reduce by 50% nomination fee for women and youth aspiring for various political positions. The party presidential flag bearer and Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, said the party will also waive the charges for female aspirants who are unable to raise the fee but have leadership abilities.
The Democratic Party now says women and persons living with disabilities with extreme financial difficulties will not be required to pay any nomination fee. Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, who is also the party's presidential flag bearer, while addressing women opinion leaders drawn from Kiambu County, said the party's move was meant to make it easier for women to aspire for more leadership positions.
The Democratic Party has taken a decision that women aspirants will be given a 50% discount, and in appropriate cases, and youth, as well as the youth, and in appropriate cases, depending on the peculiar circumstances of each case, we can even do a waiver of the nomination fees.
Muturi stated that women and youth should empower each other and advocate for greater representation in leadership positions.
I put a pitch for as many women as possible and the youth to come out and vie for various leadership positions in the political arena. And as a party, we will go out of our way to encourage that and support.
While urging Kenyans to take advantage of the remaining registration period, Muturi also urged IEBC to enhance voter education to lure more youth in their voting system. Meanwhile, Bomet Governor Professor Hilary Barchok has called on political leaders in the country to desist from divisive politics and preach peace while seeking support. Speaking in Cheboyo, Chepalungu constituency, Barchok said the country is more important than all politicians and urged politicians to show maturity in their campaigns.
Ningependa kuomba viongozi wote tukizunguka kuomba kura lazima tutumie lugha mzuri. Ile maneno ambayo tunaongea lazima iwe maneno ya kuunganisha wa Kenya, sio maneno ya kuwatawanya wa Kenya kwa njia za ukabila.
Off to matters security, where the Interior Ministry is seeking an additional 5.8 billion shillings in the 2022-2023 budget to cater for police insurance cover. Appearing before the National Assembly Administration Committee, Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kebisho asked legislators to consider harmonizing insurance cover for police, or rather public officers, including the police.
Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho appeared before the National Assembly Administration Committee to defend the ministry's budget for 2022-2023. The Interior Ministry submitting it requires 142 billion shillings, but Treasury has allocated the ministry 103 billion shillings. The shortfall, according to PS Karanja Kibicho, will hamper critical areas including recruitment of police and rolling out a new insurance cover for the officers.
103,000 civil servants are covered at 6-point-something billion group life. The 135 police officers and prison are covered at 2 billion. When a civil servant loses life, the line of duty, they are given salary of 5 years. 5 years. When a police officer dies in the line of duty, and they are more prone to dying in the line of duty than the others who come to office, they are given 1 year.
The Interior Ministry requires at least 5.8 billion shillings to match the insurance cover for police with that of civil servants.
If we are to get exactly cut and paste what the other civil servants are getting, then the deficit is 5-point-something billion, so that our total cover is 8.1 billion.
Further, the ministry is seeking an additional 2 billion shillings to equip forensic laboratory. Public Service Principal Secretary Mary Kimonye also appeared before the committee to defend her department's budget. Kimonye calling on MPs to fund Huduma centers because they were facing eviction from poster premises over rent arrears amounting to 1.7 billion shillings.
You know, Huduma is almost a security installation. So in some areas we have poster and we are finding them licensing kiosks around us because you know what poster is going through. I think this is a major discussion, Chair. We probably might not exhaust it here. So we have government data there, we don't want it compromised. Maybe government should acquire the post office premises.
Now that is happening, is that we understand that yesterday, appearing, in front of, at the National Assembly, is that Ukur Yatani, the CS Treasury there, has a total of 126.3 billion shillings as the supplementary budget. And a majority of this, or rather the large chunk of this, is going to go towards security. Security, especially during elections. We have the issue of drought as well as purchase of COVID-19 vaccines. We're going to give you details of this as we proceed within the headlines. Now, off to the counties. The new Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, Maalim Mohammed, has issued 2 weeks ultimatum to those in possession of illegal firearms in the region to surrender them or face the full force of the law. The administrator said the government will embark on a forceful disarmament exercise in, among other areas, at the restive Kerio Valley region if the directive is not adhered to. Details of this and other stories in our County News Roundup.
It is during his first meeting as the regional security boss that the new regional coordinator, Maalim Mohammed, gave a 2 weeks window period to all those in possession of illegal firearms to surrender before the forceful disarmament process starts.
Tutawanyaganya kwa nguvu. What we call forceful disarmament. Hakuna huruma tena. Yeah, because jukumu letu ni kulinda maisha na mali ya Wakenya. Isiwe kila siku tunaambiwa watu wamegongwa.
While in Muranga, a family in Kandundu is crying for justice after one of their kin was attacked and killed by unknown people.
Tungetaka watu wa usalama watusaidie, kwa sababu zamani kulikuwa hakuna shida, lakini tunauliza wenye wanahusika waangalie hili jiji letu la Kandundu.
Elsewhere in Migori County, 125 people living with HIV are said to benefit from foodstuffs to cushion themselves from the effects of COVID-19. The monthly donation set to run for 3 months will benefit residents in 6 selected sub-counties.
We are working in 6 sub-counties of Migori County. We are working in Kuria West, Kuria East, Sona West, Ateke, Riri, and Sona East.
And in Baringo, 2 bodies dumped along the Cabernet Iten Road, 5 kilometers from Cabernet town, have been positively identified. One was identified as Charles Muchuha, an Uber driver in Nairobi Eastlands area, plying Kiamaiko area, is said to have been picked on 18th January at around 1 p.m. by people who identified themselves as police officers while in a car wash, only to end up dead in Baringo. The other body belonged to Daniel Kinuthia, a father of 4 who was a mason in Ruiru and was abducted by unknown people.
The cause of death is strangulation, but they also had accompanying soft injuries to the neck and to the head, sustained from a blunt object.
Finally, over 2,900 pupils in public primary schools in Mathioya constituency, Muranga County, have received clipboards, rulers, pencils and geometrical sets from well-wishers ahead of the 2022 KCPE examinations next month.
Tangu janga la corona lije, watu wamefinyika sana kimfuko.
Matters business, where coffee cooperative officials have been given 2 weeks to register qualified farmers for the 3 billion shillings revolving cherry fund. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says the uptake of the cherry fund is still low due to low levels of sensitization of farmers by cooperatives about the fund.
New Kenya Planters Cooperative Union says out of the 3 billion shillings cherry fund availed to farmers in 2020, only 200 million shillings has so far been disbursed. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya blames the low uptake to low levels of awareness about the availability of funds by farmers.
Niomba 100, ukilipa unalipa na shilingi 100 na shilingi 3. Ni kama kupewa pesa bure, unaambiwa enda utumie urudishe. Na hiyo pesa imekaa kwa benki kwa sababu wa muombi.
Tunapata cherry fund na hii kitu ni kitu ambayo imekuwa ikifichwa. Watu hawaelezwi kwa ukweli vile mambo ilivyo.
Officials in the cooperatives have been given 14 days to register qualified farmers who are interested on borrowing from the revolving fund.
Mimi nimepeana wiki mbili. Officials wasaini hizo form, wakulima waombe pesa. Society ile haita sign. Mimi nitakuja huko baada ya wiki mbili. Ni notice nimepeana.
Low coffee production from smallholders has also contributed to reduced borrowings as credit is advanced at 20 shillings per kilo.
Lakini pesa iko ya kuomba, badala uende kwa benki ukaombe pesa ya gharama ya juu. Ama uwe na shinda ukingoja kahawa iuzwe na pesa iko hapo, si uombe.
This comes as 217 and 3460 kg bags of coffee were sold via the Nairobi Coffee Exchange in January this year, up from 132 and 149 bags sold during the same period last year, representing a 64.23% rise. The average price rose by 16.09% to 38,000 shillings per 50 kg bag this year.
The Cherry Revolving Fund that is open there for all eligible coffee farmers. So get the right information and apply for that particular money there. It's a fund meant to revive the coffee industry. Now, service providers from technical and vocation institutions are set to be the main beneficiaries of the economic partnership agreement between Kenya and the United Kingdom. The service providers are being trained to equip them with knowledge that will help them fit in the British job market. According to Trade Principal Secretary Johnson Wero, Kenya is drafting a new fiscal policy tailored to the economic partnership agreement with the UK.
Kenya signed an economic partnership agreement with the United Kingdom in December 2020, with the deal coming into force in March last year following its ratification by both countries. It offered Kenyan exports continuation of duty-free access to the UK market. The deal ensured that trade between the UK and the East African community continues uninterrupted. Trade Principal Secretary Johnson Wero says Kenya will serve as the trade hub connecting the UK to the greater East African region, especially with the expansion of the port of Mombasa. In terms of the service industry, Wero says the deal would ensure that trained Kenyans easily access employment opportunities in the UK.
In the area of services. So once we agree, negotiate, sign and ratify, a nurse from Kenya, a welder from Kenya, a carpenter, a mason, a plumber, we'll just take a flight, go and do what they have to do and come back. And you can imagine the transformative effect of our TVETs and our rural incomes.
That we can get Kenyan nurses who are out of work, who don't have jobs in the Kenyan economy, to enable them to transfer their skills to the UK, work in the NHS for a few years, and then hopefully come back with expanded skill sets and add to Kenya's national health system.
He tasked the newly appointed Economic Partnership Council to map out business opportunities in the UK that Kenyan businesses can tap.
So the faster we create success pillars for the trade in goods, we move into the other areas of services, investments, competition, and it will be a great opportunity for Kenya and East Africa and the rest of Africa.
Traders say they still face challenges exporting to the UK and are calling on the government to intervene through a policy tailored to the Economic Partnership Agreement.
What we'll be able to do is to increase our competitiveness. What we'll be able to do is to expand the scope because we have duty-free and quota-free opportunity to export to the UK.
Those in the service industry like nurses will be at the center of this trade agreement, establishing better ties between Kenya and the United Kingdom.
Now, if you operate a small business, you're being encouraged to embrace the hub and spoke model that allows different businesses to share a working space. Housing and Urban Planning Principal Secretary there, Charles Hinger, says the model is cost-friendly to business owners and helps mitigate environmental impacts. Hinger's sentiments come in the wake of reduced demand for premium office spaces. Coronavirus fast-tracked adoption of online working models to stem the spread of the virus, with most service-based companies wholesomely embracing the work-from-home model.
And in response, companies, both local and international, embarked on cost-saving and austerity measures, looking to save costs wherever possible in the short term.
The latest Architectural Association of Kenya report indicates that there is depressed demand for premium office space. The report shows that there is an oversupply of 6.3 million square feet of office space, as well as declining rental yields in Kenya.
And moving into this year, our outlook for the commercial office sector is negative.
Despite the reinvention of the real estate sector towards development anchored on innovation and technology, the Architectural Association of Kenya is calling on developers to undertake extensive research before embarking on any project for sustainability.
I would hope about this reimagining that we're going to do together is looking at all these new urban nodes that are coming up as a result of all the heavy investment in infrastructure.
In terms of infrastructure, a big deal is actually needed to be done there. And government is trying, but we believe more can be done to improve infrastructure, especially look at water supply, waste management, and of course transport.
Investment in the real estate sector holds promise, as increasing demand for small housing units is set to see the real estate grow. However, experts warn that there is need for an upgrade in infrastructure to support this development.
Wondering why is seeing me twice, as Lady Jane actually makes a comment about it. That is what transpired yesterday there, just bringing together stakeholders, especially within the architectural niche in building and construction, who have also warned that we need to upgrade the infrastructure, especially in suburb areas that are, experiencing an increase in demand of small housing units. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, that's the niche. If you look at, property market, looking at, investments around Kilimani area and borrowing heavily from a report that was also released by Haas Consult indicates that, investors are shying away or have adopted a wait and see kind of stand when it comes to investing in such areas, owing to increased, shifts to such areas that do not have the requisite infrastructure to support the populace that is headed to such places. So if you're looking to invest, yes, residential area might actually give you some, return on investment, especially on the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom housing units. However, you need to be keen exactly where are you putting up this particular, structure. Is the infrastructure, can it carry? When you're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about water, sewer system, drainage, as well as, accessibility. So those are some of the issues to consider. Now, this takes us to the sporting arena, where sensational Kenyan and Africa junior tennis champion Angela Okutoyi, who became the first girl in Africa to reach a third round of the Australian Open, has promised to show a stunning performance at the French Open before playing in the Wimbledon later this year. Okutoyi, who was received a warm welcome by the Tennis Kenya and as well as the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, that is NOC, stated that she will maintain her focus and put Kenya in glory.
Angela Okutoyi's momentous run to the third round of the Australian Open for juniors grabbed headlines and captured imaginations. By defeating Italian qualifier Federica Agassi in the first round, the 18-year-old became the first Kenyan girl to record a junior Grand Slam match win, while she was already the first since 1978 to even compete at a major. There was further joy and much-deserved acknowledgement when Okutoyi dispatched another qualifier, this time Zara Lake of Australia, in round 2 and equaled the previous best result of a Kenyan junior at a Grand Slam.
I've been doing some interviews, but I usually don't mention 4 people who are really important in my life, which I don't really mention much. One important person that I don't usually mention is my grandmother. Well, I want to say thank you so much, because without her, maybe I wouldn't be even in Kenya, or I wouldn't even know the sport tennis, because back in the time when we were young, I was in the orphanage, and she has really struggled so much to take care of me.
I feel so good. Yani nimefurahi Angie amefanya tumejulikana. Yani amemake us to be proud. But I always tell her, be focused, respect everyone, play your game, don't look at anyone.
The sensational player shifts attention to the French Open and the Wimbledon as she hopes to orchestrate her performance to larger margins.
Next is to see myself playing at the other 3 Grand Slams and to break the record that I beat in Australian Open, meaning beating round 3. So
I think it's really good because when you do get a player like Angie, all those little girls and boys outside, they now get that energy to play tennis. They have a role model. And I think tennis is on the upswing again.
Without a proper infrastructure, you even can't get your products to the market. Without proper infrastructure, you won't even be able to utilize the electricity to do this or that. This is fundamental. There are no public courts in Kenya. None exist.
Angie is from a structure of teachers, a structure of physiotherapists, mental coach, fitness coach, administrators, tennis coaches.
Congratulations, Angie here. And off a screen, and Mike was just saying that she would be one of our guests we're looking to have, especially on women at the forefront. Continue. It's all about, onwards and upwards, so to speak, for Angie there. Now going off on the road when it comes to matters Safari Rally. Now preparations for the 10th edition of the East African Classic Rally are over 48 international and local drivers have confirmed participation in the event that is set to be held between the 10th and 18th of this month and cover up to 5,000 kilometers across the region. The 9-day event will be flagged off at the Kenya Wildlife Institute in Naivasha. Notable local drivers who will be taking part in the race include Carl Tondo and Eric Bengi, who competed in last year's 2021 World Championship Rally. Gatimu Mindo will also enter the rally for the first time in a famous and proven Datsun 180B. Meanwhile, Kenyan driver Eric Bengi has opted out of the 2022 WRC Safari Rally Kenya in June in order to focus on the East African Rally and the National Championship.
The 10th edition, but we have new ownership from Joey Ghosh. He is the chairman. He can't be here at the moment, but he is flying in this weekend.
This year we've taken bigger measures on safety, and I'll break it down in several categories. For drivers, they are getting state-of-the-art equipment installed in their cars, which is primarily to do with assisting in overtaking.
Sorry, you'll not be seeing us in WRC. We are taking a sabbatical from that, but let's see what the future holds.
We've taken every measure to make sure the car is reliable and successful around the route. You've got to remember that 20-year-old cars, and we travel sort of on our Kenyan roads.
Before we bring this to a close, just to remind you that the race is on. After 3 weeks of the AFCON, we are down to the knockout stage and the finals. So tomorrow at 10 p.m, we're going to have Teranga Lions, that is Senegal, that's my team there, taking on Burkina Faso, so to speak. In that, but then we'll see whoever gets from this is going to be appearing at the finals. May the best team win. That brings a cap in to matters in the headlines. Do not go away. When we come back, we're going to be sampling the various dailies that we have with us in studio. We'll be right back.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle, or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns, and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news, and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
I had a family emergency.
Hey, I hope it was very serious indeed.
But let me ask you, look at her. Hey, which similar superstar has a fossil sense like Kamene?
Who cares? Ebu mke kiti yangu mimi sijazoea kuketi kwa hizi vitu zingine. I'm a gym instructor and a nutritionist.
Demo, so you can make a menu specifically for myself.
Wale wacha majeshi yako, so you send Kenyanchi to come and pick your kids.
Hizo sasa ni kaya.
Hey teacher, what is your car's number plate?
KCV.
Did you say KCV?
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Jen wants to see the two of us.
I can't give you what Ken was giving you. I'm sorry.
When do you ndume wa hii boma? Anza kuguruma.
And now if akina Mark washinda hizi nyumba zote, mimi najua nyumba gani nitaishi. You get my dilemma? Yeah, that is such a dilemma.
What if you guys lose?
No. That is very impossible. I am set to live. Shall we? I hope Christina has not filled your mind with lies.
What lies, Mark?
Welcome back to the program. We continue with In the Headlines, but now we get to have a look at what the papers have for us today. We are still using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handles ever remain to be at KBC Channel 1 across all the social media platforms. I start you off with the Daily Nation. Very many pictures are featured here on the front page, but really not much going on. We started with the story concerning inside the 1 billion NSSF train, how Kibaki reforms sparked off massive theft at the fund. That story has been covered on page 12 of this particular daily. We'll be getting to the particulars in a bit. The next story concerns MPs as they close ranks to save their jobs. House business team motion passed in a record time. This is something that, has had people lifting an eyebrow or two here and there, but we'll be giving you the details as they have been captured on this particular daily. Coming to the main read, KQ and IEBC win big in the 130 billion budget, but when it comes to taming prices, the government responds to the mounting public pressure over the high cost of living by allocating an additional 24.7 billion from the supplementary budget to the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining to try and stabilize the rising fuel prices. We'll be getting to those details in a bit. They've gone on to look at how this particular additional supplementary budget has affected the overall debt of us as a country. Moving away from that, some bit of politics. Ruto goes for NASA's 2017 strategy to beat Azimio La Umoja. It is said that the deputy president is borrowing a leaf from Raila Odinga's National Super Alliance 2017 vote mobilization plan as part of his strategy to help him win the top seat come the August 9th general elections. Of course, details coming up in a bit. And finally, drug crisis as Magoha seeks AG's advice in regards to the role of two agencies when it comes to the verification of qualification. And this is in regards to the Kenya National Qualification Authority, as well as, let me get this other particular entity. This is in regards to verifying academic qualifications and certificates. This story has been covered here on page 8, which is something that the CS for Education had written to the AG about, looking at the roles of, let's get it. These two particular entities. There we go. The role of the Kenya National Qualification Authority, as well as the Technical and Vocational Training Authority, when it comes to their role in terms of verifying academic qualifications that are issued both locally and internationally, saying they're doing one and the same job, so why do we need the two? And finally, Juma seeks to move case to magistrate. Malindi MP Aisha Juma, who is facing murder charges for killing of an ODM supporter, wants to exhaust all appeal channels. That is basically the front page of the Daily Nation for you this morning. Stephanie.
All right, let me take you through the Star. And much of it is politics. The front page reads, Musalia Raila in bitter war over Uhuru support. And we get this on page 4 and 5, where a fresh war of words has erupted between the ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi and ODM boss Raila Odinga over claims that the state is bankrolling the Azimio la Umoja campaigns. But the allies of Raila have come out to affirm that the financial to affirm that the campaigns are not being run by the state support. And in a bare-knuckle response, the troops termed Mudavadi in a political paper tiger grasping at In a bare-knuckle response, the troops termed Mudavadi a political paper tiger grasping at straws amidst our disastrous political anti-climax. On page 3 here, we have some comic, a cartoon of the UDA leader, that is Uhuru, if you can see it. Beside him, we have the NC leader, Musalia Mudavadi, and Ford Kenya leader, Moses Wetangula. And there's a question that they're asking, so what are we? And then on the screen there, the UDA chair, that is Johnson Muthama, says, just friends. Well, this is obviously after the UDA chair announced that there's no coalition agreement with ANC and Ford Kenya, and they're currently just operating on a basis of friendship. Some more on politics is that Raila allies declare war on Ruto for insulting Uhuru, and Joho says that they will take the DP head-on if he will not cease his attacks. Moving away from politics, we have bizarre killings, mystery of 25 Yala River bodies entwined in Luo traditions. We'll be getting details of this in just a while. Also, an interesting story of Lamu midwife who dodges bullets to deliver babies in Boni village, and this is quite in line with today's theme, which is women at the forefront. So we'll be getting into details. That's just what's making the front page. To you, Doreen.
All right, and as the Kenya Kwanza Coalition was in Nairobi County yesterday, areas of Westlands, City Park, Uthiru, Kangemi markets, Raila Odinga was in Nyandarua County, and he had a lot to say while in that particular county. Obviously, again, just mentioning what UDA pact is doing and basically targeting the DP, and he accused the DP of propagating hate and ethnic discrimination in his rallies, obviously going by what the utterances that was said by Senator Mithika Linturi the other time, and again also continuing to accuse DP supporters. But away from that, he also went ahead to continue popularizing his bid, and like I mentioned, he had a lot to say in that particular county. Obviously, we know that areas of Nyandarua, Mai Mahiu still forms a bigger chunk of Kenyans who are what we call the internally displaced. And he promised that if he is elected during this year's general elections, he will ensure that the victims of the 2007-2008 post-election violence are resettled back to their lands. He also talked about the 6,000 stipend, which is said to be given to young adults, or if you may, the youths, as well as widows and single parents, and also outlined how that will be done if he gets elected as president. And again, also talked about the issue of unemployment, saying that over 700,000 people are the ones who can actually get employed at one time. So what happens to the 300,000 youths who get to graduate and leave college at the same time? So this is why he talked also about creation of employment as well as the 6,000 stipend. All that happened while he was in Nyandarua County yesterday. And the ministry is set to intensify campaigns to enforce COVID jab measures. Remember, this was a conversation last year whereby the ministry was talking about barring Kenyans from accessing services because of not being vaccinated. Well, it seems the ministry is set to intensify these campaigns beginning tomorrow. And this is just to enforce measures that barring Kenyans who have not received the COVID jab from accessing services. As it was noted by the CS Health, that is Kagwe, he stated that casualties of the COVID-19 attack in the last couple of weeks have essentially been persons who have not been vaccinated. And this is why they are set to intensify these campaigns, just to ensure that Kenyans get vaccinated against COVID-19. And again, also, if you can remember when we talked about Kenyan nurses doing that test so as to be able to receive the training, that was the English test, and a good number of them failed. Well, away from the ones who failed, the ones who passed those tests are set to, in fact, they actually began those trainings yesterday, and that particular training involved 300 nurses. So as of yesterday, there were 25 physical students in class, and 250 others were taking that learning virtually. This learning is actually going to be taking place, or is still taking place, at the Kenya Medical Training College, and it's just in a bid to ensure they get to learn the English language. This is all in a bid to try and make sure they get eligible to work in the UK, that is the United Kingdom healthcare sector. Like I mentioned, that particular training began yesterday. And also, Kenya proves HIV fight can be won. This is after the campaigns, which began in 2015, being dubbed as the 90-90 target. So the 90-90-90 target looks something like 90% of all the people living with HIV will be able to know their status. 90% of all those with diagnosed infections will receive sustained ARV therapies, and 90% of all patients receiving ARV therapy will have viral suppression. So as of last year, actually 2021, it showed that this target, Kenya has been able to reach this target. Remember that also when it comes to the issue of HIV, Kenya has been in a bit of push and pull with receiving of these ARV drugs, but at least it shows that so far the target they had set in 2015, when it came to last year, they had been able to reach that particular target. And lastly, in Kwale County, health workers are set to down their tools. Again, also early this year, we had a similar story which happened in Mombasa County, and various issues is what these health workers are decrying of. Key that forms the majority of those particular issues include promotions and non-payment of staffs in Kwale County. So this strike is set to begin today. They had given a 24 notice, which actually ended yesterday, so it's set to begin today. That is in Kwale County, and obviously it just means that residents in that particular county are going to have it difficult when it comes to accessing health services. Regina.
Quick sneak peek into the Standard this morning. Front page is all about the mini budget, so to speak. Supplementary budget there, 126 billion shillings, finding itself on the front page of the Standard this morning. Some key areas or beneficiaries of this budgetary allocation include IEBC for security during the elections. We also have the stabilization fund of 24.7 billion shillings. And now when it comes to bailout, especially of state-owned corporations that are in debt, is Kenya Airways, a national carrier which is going to be bailed out once again by taxpayers at a cost of 26.6 billion shillings. We also have the Department of Infrastructure, 7.3 billion shillings to just complete some of the major infrastructural projects under the current government led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Matters of COVID-19 also have taken center stage, with Treasury seeking to allocating 14.9 billion shillings to matters of health that include the purchase of the COVID vaccines. We also have the Teachers Service Commission that is going to get 6.9 billion shillings extra. And we're talking about this is within the financial year 2021-2022 that ends in June 2022. This is a total of 126.3 billion shillings. This is just some of what is happening at the Parliament buildings yesterday. We're going to be giving you further details in regard to that. Also on the front page, we know this year we're expecting to have around 4 national exams, so to speak. Now it is very clear, and it has found itself on the front page of the Standard, that we're not going to have multiple choice questions for grade 3 and 5 tests. Yes. Choice A, B, C, D, and such, nothing. So no multiple question for grade 3 and 5 tests. Further on with the IEBC mass voter registration that began its second phase, so to speak, is going to be culminating on 6th. Yes, and according to the IEBC, with just only 4 days actually to go to the end of the second phase of the exercise that began in January, on the 24th of January. So far, 548,188 new voters have been registered, and it goes further to just give a highlight of, who registered and where are they from. Mombasa so far has 17, and this is the new second phase. We have 17,958 in Mombasa. Nyamira, we have an extra of 6,896. Now the second phase of the registration exercise will, however, culminate, or rather expire or close, so to speak, at various days in the diaspora, depending on when they commenced. For instance, the Commission will extend the registration in Canada and the United Arab Emirates by the number of days lost, to ensure that Kenyans residing in the two countries are accorded the 15 days to register as voters. So far, 1,054 new voters have been registered in diaspora, while 1,072 have made requests to transfer. 806 applications for change of particulars have also been made. So with 4 days to go, then you need to register if you have not registered, or if there's something that you need to change, well, this is the time to do so. That's just a quick sneak peek onto what has been given, prominence in the front page of today's issue of the Standard. And we'll be giving you details, especially in concern to matters of, the budgetary allocation. That is an extra, so to speak, and this will push the total budget for the current financial year to 3.38 trillion shillings for this current financial year. And in this particular year, talking about the year that culminates, or rather terminates, on June 30th, government is expected to issue the 5th Eurobond that is estimated value of around 250 billion shillings. We'll be giving you details of that as we proceed in the headlines. There, I don't know if we're taking a quick break or
let's just dive back into the Daily Nation. Mr. Director, matukunywa chai kidogo. All right, amesema tuendelee kidogo. Let me just add on to that particular story concerning this mini budget that you've touched on, Regina. Just some more details that have been featured here on the Daily Nation. Of course, Kenya Airways, which they have So when it comes to the description of entities, journalists, we usually have a ball when it comes to this description. So here they go on to say that Kenya Airways, IEBC and petroleum farms are the biggest winners when it comes to this particular mini supplementary budget, which of course, by it being 126.3 billion, means that is how much it has gone up to bring the total of this particular budget for the financial year 2021-2022 to 2.07 trillion. So this is a 6.5% rise, okay? And according to what has been said in regards to what this mini budget is going to cater for, this money is going to cater for the August 9th general elections preparation. We have the post-coronavirus pandemic-related government interventions. It will also cater for drought, settling pending bills, salary adjustments, the KBC infrastructure, and changes in development partners funded projects. So that is just the additional information that has been featured here on this particular daily. But of course, you can go ahead and grab and just get to read more stories that have been featured, or rather how the stories have been approached on the different dailies. Now, I bring you back to this particular story concerning Ruto going for NASA's 2017 strategy to beat the Azimio team. Let me quickly fold my paper. We do not butcher the paper. So Ruto borrows from NASA's 2017 strategy, and this is part of what his team has been working on. So he's borrowing a leaf from Raila Odinga's NASA 2017 vote mobilization plan and campaign team as it gears up for the general elections. Speaking to this, Mr. Nanok was saying that we have campaign committees across the country in every polling station. This is something that NASA did back in 2017, where they had one of their team members at each and every polling station. But according to the law according to the election laws, a polling station should not have more than 700 voters. And of course, each party can have its own agent at this particular station. So that is what they are going for. Just ensure that nothing goes wrong. And they are said to have borrowed this from Raila Odinga's strategy back in 2017. And on the other hand side, we also have trouble for Ruto as Western and in Western as ANC and Ford Kenya lose MPs because they say that they were quote unquote never consulted by Mudavadi and Wetangula before they decided to switch camps. So they say the problem is that Musalia and Wetangula never consulted the community. They made a unilateral decision, and the backlash they are witnessing now is of their own doing. All right. So the two parties risk being swallowed completely by UDA because, you know, they did not consult the people to understand where they stand in regards to their opinion when it comes to joining hands with UDA. So that is what, those are the stories concerning the deputy president here on this particular daily. Stephanie.
Okay, so let's get back to the Star. And before we get into details, I'd like to issue an apology. I had mentioned the UDA leader as Uhuru Kenyatta instead of Honorable William Ruto. So my apologies for that. Let's get into the stories. The story on the bizarre killings mystery of 25 Yala River bodies entwined in Luo traditions. We get this on page 8. Quite an interesting piece there. The Star went to this particular village, and what they got is that it was surprising how many people claimed to have seen dead bodies being dumped into the river, came out to tell their stories of seeing bodies dumped, burnt, head wrapped in plastic bags, fingers cut off. Well, in Luo tradition, apparently dictates that if you see a human body in the river, You must look away, get out of the water, and throw a branch or a leaf to flow down the river with the body emptying into Lake Victoria. So probably this is why most of them saw the bodies and did not report it or say anything about it, because of the tradition. And Maria Ketch, 103 years old, a custodian of Luo tradition, shed more light on the dark happenings, and she said that though the tradition is slowly dying off, many people still practice it. She continued to say that if you saw a dead body, its spirit would expect you to rescue it from the river. So because many people are scared or may not be able to pull the body out of the water, they toss in a leaf or twig to send away the spirit and let it flow away. Maybe if Victor were here, he would explain this better. Because I'm a Luo, but I've never heard of this one. It's quite, this is how far or how deep the traditions go. Well, let's move on to another story. The Lamu midwife dodges bullets to deliver babies in Boni village. This is on page 22. And this is one woman who should be celebrated. And she says she has helped deliver over 2,000 babies in Lamu County. She has dodged bullets in her terror-prone Lamu home just to help mothers safely bring forth new life. In the absence of hospitals or even functional dispensaries in these villages close to the Lamu-Somalia border, Fatima Shizo, who's 70, again, risks it all to help pregnant women safely deliver their babies right in their homes. The Boni women fondly refer to Shizo as Daktari, as she has seen them through difficult times when they could not access the much needed healthcare. This is a good thing to do in the society, to risk it all just to make sure that you bring forth new life. And yeah, we celebrate her today.
Women at the forefront.
Women at the forefront. WCW, if you like, because since it's also, WCW Day. So some other stories. On business, farmers forced to close down as prices of animal feed soar. The price of animal feed reached a record high in 2020, with most going for more than 3,000 shillings. The crisis is now forcing farmers to close their dairy, poultry and pig farms and turn to other businesses. The Star talks to dairy, poultry and pig farmers across the country who said they have ventured into other business. And still on matters business, it is said that the August election polls is likely to drive up inflation, and households in Kenya should brace for another tough electioneering period, with the cost of living likely to skyrocket even as the government plays down high projections by independent bodies. So as we head towards election, make sure that you have your finances in check just to prepare for the high inflation. To you, Dorit.
All right, so let's come to that story of Raila Odinga being in Nyandarua County. Obviously, I mentioned a lot that he said yesterday, but just a bit of his strategy when it comes to creation of employment. Remember that every leader has been talking about employment, given the fact that it is still an issue in this country, especially when it comes to employment of the youths. And just as he was saying is that on employment matters, the ODM leader said that the civil service can only accommodate 700,000 people at any one time, against 1 million youths who join the job market from education institutions in the country each year. So it means that 300,000 Kenyan youths are left not having jobs. And it says that I will ensure we grow the manufacturing sector to create jobs in the country. He said, and called for fast tracking of building of cold storage in Nyandarua, given that he was there yesterday, as first step to value addition to agricultural produce in the country. And he also obviously further on talked about the 6,000 monthly stipend as a source of income for vulnerable families, for widows, single parents, as well as the same youths who are out of jobs. And in Nakuru County, the government has entered into a partnership with a faith-based organization for the construction of a state-of-the-art at multi-million shilling referral maternity hospital in Bahati sub-county, in that particular county in Nakuru. The Kingdom Seekers Fellowship pastor, that is John Kimani, said the church will work closely with the county government to ensure the maternity hospital, which is expected to cost 300 million Kenyan shillings, is complete. And all this is just to try and ensure maternity facility is actually accessible to all in that county. The facility is estimated to have a total of 120 bed capacity, which will have both a private and open wing. So once this is complete, clearly it's going, it's just good news for women in that county, that is in Nakuru County. So as that is happening in Nakuru, in Laikipia County, about 1,500 households are set to benefit from 100 million water project. This is as mentioned by the Deputy County Commissioner, that is Joshua Marete. This particular project was actually being done by the communities, so by the community in that particular area, but it took a total of 16 years. It stalled a bit because of financial issues, but over the in the last 2 years it was taken up by the government, and this is how they have been able to complete that project. They have also just chosen various areas in that county of Laikipia who are set to benefit from this project, and part of those areas is what forms the 100 households who will benefit from that water project in Laikipia County. Ray.
Now, talking about details, and I'll focus on that particular mini budget because it's going to affect how we do things as Kenyans, so to speak. We're going to have, government is going to be focusing more on matters of the general election, and that is, security of it. There's been a question there by the electoral body that has been saying that, they are underfunded, and this might actually affect their mandate, given that this is election year. So for the financial year ending June, it means that IEBC is going to have received 23.2 billion shillings, and that is after having received an extra 8.8 billion shillings, so to speak. Then the issue of competency-based curriculum, CBC, that is the CBC infrastructure. This is also something that, education stakeholders have been pointing to, that our system, our schools, a majority of them are ill-prepared. They lack the requisite infrastructure. Some of this schools are going to be receiving, or rather monies are going to be allocated under the mini budget to that. Then also the salary shortfall. We're talking about salaries. We're also looking at matters of teaching there, the TSC, also for recruitment. We're also going to have COVID-19 related expenditure, that is the vaccines and such. And the crucial bill, especially for people or other persons who have accruing or rather pending bills with government, there's going to be monies allocated to deal with the pending bills, and this is according to Ukur Yatani, the CS National Treasury there. He tabled that report yesterday in Parliament. Some of also the key beneficiaries include state parastatals and the cash-strapped Kenya Airways, Kenya Power, and public universities. Talking about universities, we have the universities that have been are going to be benefiting from this particular allocation include the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta, and more universities, who will get additional funding of 8.5 billion shillings. Other state-troubled corporations that will be bailed out by the taxpayer include Kenya Power, which will get 3.3 billion shillings, which will be used for restructuring. Now, with this particular capital ingestion, is that there are going to be some serious restructuring happening in these SOA state-owned enterprises, so to speak, and they are in the red with liabilities that are existing at their assets. Now, according to Yatani, the government will be undertaking restructuring as well as some selling off non-profitable assets and ventures as well as leveraging on ICT. Further details are going to be, elaborated as we dissect the supplementary budget. So the first of this financial year that terminates on June 30th from the business desk. What you need to know is that by the end of the financial year 2020, 21, 2022 that terminates in June 30th, country's budgetary spending is going to be pushed owing to the 126.3 mini budget, so to speak. We're going to be looking at a budget of 3.38 trillion shillings. And in this current financial year, we expect that government is going to be floating a Eurobond worth 250 billion shillings. This is going to be the fifth, and some of the issues that it's going to address is just to ensure that, some of the big projects that the government has been undertaking, they complete, or rather President Uhuru Kenyatta completes his flagship projects, including the Big Four agenda. We're going to be giving you details in our subsequent bulletins. Remember, they are still available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. For now, it is a wrap on matters in the headlines, but we're going to be back with conversations around women and what they are doing in their various capacities. But before we get there, we take a quick breather. Then we head to the roads and see how the major roads are performing this morning. I'm Regina Manyara. Enjoy your viewership.
Welcome back to the program. Time for us to quickly look at how the roads are looking like, and our focus this morning is how Outer Ring Road is looking like. Remember, that is actually the latest road, one of those major roads to be constructed here in the country, and even at that, it still records highest number of death cases. And this actually was happening before all the 11 footbridges that had been designated at various areas in that entire road were to be constructed. Some have already been installed, some are still remaining. So this morning we check how this progress is coming along and how all this is affecting the traffic flow altogether in that particular route. And we can just begin from areas of Further, this is all the way from Embakasi, just as you leave sections of Imara Daima from Mombasa Road, as you head over to the city center, coming through Embakasi. This is how it is looking like. Heavy kind of traffic on both sections, or better still on both lanes of this entire road. This is Outer Ring Road as you branch off from the airport road there, coming through Outer Ring before you get to Jogo Road, or better still what used to be the Donholm roundabout in that section. Heavy kind of traffic, but just opening up a bit on the lane as you leave the estates coming to the city center. On the other sections though, still heavy kind of traffic all the way before you get to Jogo. In fact, in some parts not moving at all, just at a standstill. So part of what really informed the expansion and the entire reconstruction of this particular road is simply because it is one of those roads that gets to serve numerous kind of estates, a lot of businesses which have just encroached into what we call the unmotorized transport system area. And so this is part of why there was need to expand and reconstruct the entire road altogether to ease the traffic congestion, and also part of what informed the installation of the various footbridges at designated areas is, first of all, to reduce on the number of death cases, because like I mentioned, clearly would record high number of death cases. But coming back, the traffic flow looks like that is not serving its purpose very well, because and this, much as it is the early morning hour, going by the various reasons I just given you as part of why it was expanded, we'd really be expecting to be seeing less and less traffic, but that is not quite the situation there, especially as you come to the city center. Nothing is changing there, still heavy kind of traffic, moving at a very slow pace in some sections, in other areas not moving at all, just at a standstill. But again, this is particular to that lane as you head over to the city center, much as that is quite expected, especially if you're coming to the CBD. Again, this is what is happening there. On the other side, as you head over to areas of Mombasa Road through Outer Ring, coming from areas of Juja Road, from areas of Jogoo Road, Donholm, as you head over to the estates there, and also as you head over to areas of Mombasa Road, still coming from areas of Manyanja. On that section, we're moving at a very swift pace, no traffic at all, and that continues all the way up to areas of Imara Daima, still around the Donholm roundabout. What rather used to be the Donholm roundabout, not bad at all in that particular section, just a bit of a build-up as you leave the roundabout, branching off through Jogoo Road, as well as also branching off to Outer Ring Road there. That is how it is looking like this morning in terms of traffic. Our focus this Wednesday is going to be simply on how Outer Ring Road is looking like.
Why are you doing this to me? I didn't steal anything from you.
That's what you say. But the evidence proves otherwise.
I advise you not to say things you're going to regret.
But we only want justice to be served.
I want you to know that justice is for everyone, miss.
Do you really believe that? Because I honestly don't.
Come on, Mariela, stop.
All right, that's enough.
You're going to look for another job elsewhere. I don't want you to work there because I don't want you near me.
Leonardo, this heart looks very much like the one I found at the park.
Yes.
How come you never told me it belonged to Alonso's mother? Are you that dumb, or you're just playing one? Noah's not here because he stole something. He's here because your father wants Letty to shut up and not press charges against him for attempted rape.
Lying heart.
Sauti ya Kenya.
Juu milimani na hata mabondeni, Radio Taifa inatamba kutamba. Sasa unaweza kupokea matangazo ya Radio Taifa loud and clear popote ulipo Western Kenya.
Radio Taifa, usisahau unaweza ukatupata kupitia
ukiwa Busia, Siaya, Vihiga, Mumias, Yala na maeneo yaliyoko karibu. Radio Taifa inapatikana kwenye 104.5 FM, na ukiwa Bungoma, Kakamega, Kiminini, Kipkaren na viunga vyake, pata vipindi na burudani safi kupitia 92.3 FM. Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya.
Don't wanna say goodbye now. That is something I just can't do, won't do. So I'm gonna say, walk with my friends. I rise. See, I'm hurting but not broken. And I wave down right, wave to the left, God. That is so good to me. And I scream out, yeah. We could never make it without you. Me could never make it without you. Me coulda never make it without you. There's no lie, no other guy can feel me man, love him woman in style. My man, so let him, I'm a king, everything when me give up to him. My man, put the jump to the bass and they know how to ride the rhythm. My man.
Hello and good morning. In case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. This is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wamboi. We would love to know where you are watching us from this morning. So feel free to check in. Use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains to be at KBC Channel 1 across all the social media platforms. My handle is at Jane Wamboi as well across all the social media platforms. So right now we move on to our first segment for, or rather this third, news, IGH. Now we get to women at the forefront. And this is all about women, all about breaking that glass ceiling, all about letting you know as a young girl, other women have gone ahead of you and helped make the path easier. And with us today, we have Brenda Ochieng, who is a recovery health coach. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana, Good Morning Kenya. Are you on social media?
Yes.
How can our viewers be able to interact with you on their socials?
My name is Atieno Tatien on Facebook, at Brenda Ochieng on Twitter.
All right.
And Brenda Ochieng on Instagram.
Fantastic. So if you feel you have any questions that you do not want us to share here on this national platform, you can always direct them to her. I believe as and when she's able to address them, she will. So we want to know you, understand your journey, getting to where you are today. So this all goes way back. Tell us a bit about how your younger days were.
My younger days were almost perfect.
That's beautiful.
Truly.
Yes.
I grew up in Kileleshwa. I had the best parents ever that gave us everything that we needed. I went to good schools like St. George's and Kenya High, and I lived in a really nice neighborhood. I remember at the time gates used to be this high, really this high. So, security and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yes, so my earlier years, I remember them with fondness.
What are some of the, everyone growing up, we always have our own childish issues that we're always like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. Did you have those experiences as well?
Yeah. One funny thing about, despite being in that perfect environment, I used to feel as though I'm a creature from outer space. I never quite fitted in.
Yeah.
I just seemed to be different from my siblings. The way I viewed life, the way I viewed anything seemed to be very different. How you look at the sky and people are seeing clouds and I'm seeing puppies and I'm seeing, and I don't understand, why can't they see them? So I grew up with that thing that I'm different, I'm weird, there's something strange about me. Sometimes I was told, by the way, not that I just felt that way. So I grew up feeling inferior, feeling different, feeling I don't belong, and feeling I can't belong. You've spoken about glass ceilings. There used to be glass between me and other people. I could be sitting here and something, I just can't seem to connect with the other people. Yeah.
Was that something you eventually outgrew, or it had its own fair share of challenges for you growing up?
It had its fair share of challenges, although in primary I didn't see too much. Excuse me. It became more in secondary. And in adulthood, this is quite unconscious what I was doing.
Yes.
In adulthood, what then happened is that I just veered towards people who then understood me, who then seemed to be not quite the norm.
Like-minded with you.
Yes. And so I've tended to walk the path less trod. And that had its challenges coming from a family that is so, solid, so, dad's a lecturer, this is the way we do things, we go to school, we go to campus, we become professional. I went my own way and definitely had its challenges when, you hit the stormy seas and you don't get that support.
And how was that for you? Because most of the times whenever you hear of children who have decided to be quote unquote the black sheep of the family, most of the times we always think it is the boy child, because that is what society has taught us. Women, you're supposed to sit down, conform, you are to be heard and not to be seen and not to be heard.
Yes.
Given you were the one who was experiencing this, maybe you could take us through your encounter with the different spaces and different challenges that you got to experience that, had to make you relearn things the hard way.
It starts right with, in high school, I started to hit those snags because I didn't want to do the subjects which I was being told to do. I was supposed to be a lawyer now that I talk so much. Didn't want to do law. Wanted to do the arts. Art, music, languages, French, German, that kind of thing. So it started right there. That I am pushing against the current, wanting to go a different direction, not being able to then meet the standards of people who have my best interests at heart, and then feeling like a failure because of that. And eventually then in adulthood suddenly breaking away and decide, you know what, I'm going to showbiz anyway. I'm going to do the arts. I'm going to go to Nairobi Theatre Academy. Otherwise, I was just always sad, always, there's this battle inside that that I can't quite put a finger on. And I would get sick, and then there's nothing wrong with me, because it's psychosomatic. It's not a real sickness. So I'd be called a hypochondriac, but the sickness was soul sickness.
They always say trauma is your inner child trying to speak with you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, given today you are a recovery health coach, this goes way back to your own personal experience. When you ventured into this other space, the arts, the entertainment industry, was this the first space that you first interacted and, got to experience alcohol specifically, which is the one that you majorly deal with?
I first experienced alcohol when I had left school and I was working in Mombasa. That was very social. Somebody took me to a disco where I'd never been, and of course I couldn't dance because in our house we don't dance. So he took away my Coke and he gave me alcohol, and after that I could dance very well indeed, I tell you. And those are the days of breakdowns. You can imagine the moves. So, but he was a responsible person.
Yes.
And it wasn't like we partied every weekend or something like that. So I was never into it. No, I didn't even like the taste of it. Unless it was sherry, then it was sweet, but I never really saw the need to, really get into it. Much, much later, in my mid-20s, when I decided, like I was saying, to break away and go into showbiz and everything. First I was an actress, doing on Nairobi Theatre Academy, the French Cultural Center, that kind of thing. Eventually I veered into fashion, the fashion industry.
Yes.
That's where I met vodka.
Hold it right there, the V word. Vodka, we will be talking about it in a bit. But first, we want to catch a very quick breather. Remember, this is Women at the Forefront, and this is a safe space for you as a young girl or even boy, for that matter, to just be part of this discussion, get to learn from our guests' experiences, and, help yourself avoid some things that you don't have to experience the hard way. So stay with us. We will be right back.
Barley, yeast, hops, and water, the raw material in beer making.
The malted barley comes from the silo, comes through this conveyor to the stoner. These others remove the dust, basically cleaning the malted barley.
Most of the beer manufacturing process is a closed process with no contact for zero chance of contamination.
This whole process is controlled from this central point.
The first step in the beer making process is mashing. Mashing is the combining of grist and water.
What happens here is conversion of starch to simple fermentable sugars like maltose.
The mixture is heated for 2 hours, causing the natural enzymes in the malt to break down starches, converting them into sugars, which will eventually become alcohol.
It is boiled for like an hour, and after boiling for the bitterness, because that will give you the bitterness in the final product. Another one is sterilizing.
The next step is loitering. This is where the liquid extract is separated from solids, also called the spent grains, separating the wort from spent grain. The lotaton separates the wort from the mash solids. The solids from the mash settle on the bottom and form a filter for the wort.
The particles emanating from boiling is separated here.
The third stage in brewing is spurging, where the remaining spent grain, which consists of grain husks and particles, are rinsed out with heated water to get as much of the sugars as possible from the remaining grain for the wort. One batch of the liquid extract in this case is 30,000 liters. The wort is then sterilized through a boiling process which halts enzyme activity and condenses the liquid. During the boiling, hops are added.
The bitter substance, which is called the alpha acids, so it is extracted by boiling.
The qualities of aroma, taste, and bitterness that hops impart to beer depend on at what point they are added. Hops can be added early in the boiling for bittering, with more time boiled resulting in more bitterness. They can be added mid-boil for flavor or late boil for flavoring and aroma. Hops can also be added at stages after the boil.
It's added, but the dosing point is below this tank.
Next, a heat exchanger is used to reduce the wort to the temperature desired for fermentation.
At this point now, you are now ready to cool the liquid and take it to start fermenting.
Wort is transferred to a fermentation tank and the yeast is added. This stage is the primary fermentation, the conversion of sugars to alcohol and carbon dioxide that lead to an ale or a lager, depending on the type of yeast used.
You filter the beer and make it that sparkling clear.
Once yeast has been pitched at proper temperature, the beer is generally maintained. The process of the yeast converting sugars to alcohol generates heat and is monitored closely by brewers. During the conditioning process, the beer will mature and be smooth, and byproducts of the fermentation will diminish. The conditioning process can last from 1 to 6 weeks and sometimes even more. We move to the bottling section of the brewery, where recycled bottles are brought in and cleaned. This machine cleans 40,000 bottles in an hour. Then, the inspection process begins, where the good bottles pass and the ones with chips and faults are rejected.
This is the rejection.
The bottles are then dried and recycled into new bottles that will now be filled with a fresh batch of beer. Next, the beer is crowned or capped with a bottle top. The beer is then pasteurized. Once the beer has fermented, it must be carbonated. This involves adding carbon dioxide to a container under high pressure, forcing it to be absorbed into the beer. This is done to improve shelf life.
And in the process is what we call carbonation. You add more carbon dioxide in it.
At every stage, the manufacturer scoops the beer for quality tests to confirm desired taste and acidity levels. The bottles are then filled with beer and capped and then sent to labeling. After the labels have been put, the bottles are passed in the Kenya Revenue Authority verification machine to be stamped as having passed all quality control tests and found fit for human consumption. The labeling goes hand in hand with counting and with verification. Once the labeling has been done, the beers are then packed into crates that are carried by cranes to the factory store and into waiting trucks that will then transport the beer to the wholesale and retail markets.
Nisemano Koth for the process.
And we are back. Now that you know the process of what it takes to make beer, let's pick up this conversation with Brenda Ocheng, who is a recovery health coach, just from, understanding her journey. Now, we had gotten to that point where you discovered vodka. How was that interaction?
Initially, as usual, not interested. But slowly, I remember that I was looking for a job in a modeling agency. And I didn't quite fit. You know, I wasn't quite what they were looking for. So they gave me a chance. They told me that I could come as a dresser during the what do you call it? The prejudging, and let's see. And my job was Girl Friday in that particular time. And there's just a whole lot of vodka, you know. And eventually I made it. I was taken on, you know, for that particular job, the real job, and, you know, I later became a manager in that modeling agency. And there was just always a whole lot of vodka. So psychologically, I started to associate vodka with my newfound fame and money and glamour and wonderful new life. So anytime I went out, and I did acquire a nightlife, I never had one before. And anytime I went out, I would look for vodka, you know, the Dowers and the rest, because it was just very subtle and psychological that now, suddenly, all of a sudden, vodka became my best friend.
Did it affect your life in any way? And if it did, how did it play out? You know, looking at your professional life, your health, and also your relationships individually. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. You see, people would complain about, why am I drinking vodka? Women don't drink vodka, you know. So eventually I started drinking with people who drink the way I drink. So I change of friends. Professionally, well, I just went kabisa into showbiz, which I don't regret. By the way, those are some of the best days of my life. I remember them with fondness.
Yes.
I met amazing people within showbiz, but of course that then meant that a lot of my other friends were alienated. They just didn't fit in anymore. By the way, I was a bit, how do you call it, smug about that. Remember, I'm the one who doesn't fit in usually.
You don't fit here?
Usually doesn't fit in. Me, I'm fine. I'm so over here. Yeah. And so I changed professions anyway. I went kabisa into showbiz stuff. My relationship with family members, I started to kabisa, you know, to drift away. I never had time for them. I was either doing a show, I was going to watch somebody else's show. In any case, there's a kind of prima donna thing going on where suddenly some people are not good enough for me. Yeah, that bit I regret. You know?
All right.
Yeah.
Now, at what point did you realize that maybe the drinking could be getting out of control and it was really showing in other aspects of your life that you were not consciously noticing?
I actually thought to myself drinking was out of control when I contracted TB. And that was the kind of disease you want to contract as a prima donna, right? And I realized that I couldn't stop. I have TB, it's killing me. Alcohol is going to kill me. I can't live with alcohol. I can't live without alcohol. And I saw somebody on TV at that particular time talking about his journey. And it was like, that's my journey. Is it possible? Is it possible that I could, you know, be an alcoholic? Well, that I've lost control over alcohol. So I took his contact. I was quarantined. I couldn't move because the TB was so bad. So it's much, much later that I got into contact with him in order to now start my journey of looking for recovery. But it was just about that time. Also, I had reached a point where I needed a bottle of vodka a day, 750 milliliters.
A whole bottle?
A whole bottle.
A day?
Yes.
Wow.
And if I didn't in the morning, I'd be shaking and I'd be seeing ghosts and demons and things like that. They come at 4:30, by the way, in the morning. Very prompt. And it reached a point where then I couldn't afford the vodka. Anyway, because I wasn't working. And I started to go inside Kijiji's. You're living in a beautiful apartment in State House, but you're going around the corner into a Kijiji. What's wrong with this picture, you know? And I was buying cheap stuff that you know is illegal, and you have to hide it under groceries and things like that. And that's not me, you know, that's not me. And eventually, you know, well-meaning people would say, look, we can send it. There's a certain Muzungu man used to live downstairs from me. We can go to, what do you call it, the army place. He knew somebody who could get a whole, if you want to give me vodka, I'll drink your vodka, and when I'm done, I'll go and drink my own things. Because even the vodka itself wasn't giving me what I needed. I just drink it and drinking neat, and it just wouldn't do it for me.
You had built such a tolerance towards it.
Exactly.
All right.
The tolerance was really high.
Now, eventually you did go to rehab for the first time. How did that play out? Or how did it even come about for you to even accept to go to rehab?
I knew I needed help. You know, in my lucid moments, like if I don't drink that horrible stuff, but I had to drink every day. If I drank like a normal human being, wine or something like that, the next day, then my head was very clear and I would start regretting. There's so much remorse. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm a mess. I'm a what? But then I was also realizing that I can't do it on my own. And I came to realize I need help. And I got in touch with that person I had seen on TV, and he even told me, you need you need to go to rehab. And then the next biggest thing was, how am I going to afford it? Because it was, you know, when you're not working, and it was, the one I heard about was really expensive. I said, if somebody gave me that money, I'd buy a car, not go to rehab. But one fine day, I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And one fine day, somebody who my sister invited to dinner, he came, and by the way, I was sober that day, but he still saw that situation, and he had heard about me. And he said, what do you want to do about your situation? I said, I want to go to rehab, but I can't afford it. So you get me a job. And he said, you can't work. And he gave me the money, 54,000 Kenya shillings. I hadn't seen so much money in a very long time.
Considering you were not working at that particular point.
Yeah. And so I went to rehab. Yeah.
Now, rehab is another area that most of us, or rather most of the people who haven't interacted with any forms of addiction, have no idea what it looks like or what goes on in a rehabilitation center. What was the experience there? You know, just looking from what you experienced, did you find there were some loopholes in the rehab itself?
I must say I was also scared. I thought I'd find mad people there. I thought, I don't know, they would force us to go into a chapel or something like that. You know, an addict, you and God are parallel. So I crept there before even being admitted to just see what it was like. The first biggest loophole I saw was a really hole in the wall. I mean, in the
quite literally.
I thought to myself, if I want to escape from here, I can. You know, if I really wanted to get out of here, I could. The other loophole that, I mean, there are many, I have a whole video I created about loopholes in rehabs, but nevertheless, okay, let me talk about the loopholes. The loopholes is, the program was not really geared towards women. First of all, a lot of women have issues, for example, issues of abuse and things like that. And now if you're going to teach us about that, and we're together with men who are going to be giggling and leering, you know, you're not going to...
the purpose.
Exactly. Women have very specific needs, and there needs to be a program, or at least a section of the program, that just focuses on the women and the women needs, which was not there at the time I went to rehab. That was way back, 2006.
Yes.
They did their best at the time, but those are the two major things that I saw.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, you have gone through rehab. You managed to go through the whole stay. You got out. And we find so many people struggle with relapses and just staying true to the journey. How was your experience after you got out of rehab?
I relapsed. I relapsed also. And I know that a lot of it has to do with me. With me not doing step 4. We do the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. In step 4 is when you get into the nitty-gritties, because everybody has a reason why they drink.
Yes.
And why they continue to drink despite the adverse circumstances or the adverse problems that it brings them. That's why you now start being called an abuser or an alcoholic. Because if I sat on this chair and it broke today, and tomorrow I sat on it and broke, I think I wouldn't sit on it again. So why do I keep on drinking despite the adverse effects? It's because... So I've lost my thought. But...
You relapsed after you have gotten out of rehab. Yes.
So in step 4, you go into the nitty-gritties of why am I drinking? What is the real reason why I'm drinking? Honestly, if you had looked at my circumstances at that particular time, you would not have understood what is it that depresses this girl. I live in an apartment in State House. I can see Kibaki's lawns. I mean, I have everything. I have loving parents. I had a very loving sister who used to support me through all of this, taking me to hospital, and yet I'm not making myself sick, you know, things like that. So what is the real reason? You wouldn't have found it in the present. The problem was way buried, way back.
Deep-seated.
Deep-seated. And you know, much as I say I learned to drink vodka when I went to the fashion industry, I won't blame the fashion industry because the stage was already set. The stage was already set for me to become...
That.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now what just happened was that there was a matchstick here that just ignited the whole thing, the availability. Because my parents are very religious, they're very, you know, they read the Bible and everything. There's no alcohol in that house. So there's no way that it would have happened earlier than that.
All right.
Yeah.
So now you are out, you have relapsed, you're struggling or having those challenges once again. Did you go back to rehab, or what were the steps you took moving forward from that particular point where, you know, you had fallen off the wagon?
Yes, I went back to rehab. Mercifully, I was able to go back, because we always say you don't know which of your drunk is the last drunk. People come out, relapse, and they die. I know 17 from when I went to rehab that, you know, died. Mercifully, I was able to go back to rehab. within 6 months of my having left the other rehab. And
you went to the same center or
yes,
a different one?
It was the same center, but the same rehab, but a different center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they had opened one in Ridgeways.
All right.
So I went there, and the counselor, who is the person I met the first time I went to peep and see what a rehab looks like, he was now the admin. And he told me, Brenda, this site is too familiar. What site? You coming alone in a taxi with your suitcase and saying, admit me. And I said, who did you want me to come with? You see, both times I took myself to the rehab, both times I realized I'm the one with the problem, but how did I relapse? So the second time, he pointed it out to me. He kindly told me, this is where you went wrong. You didn't do your step 4. We're not allowed to fraternize, but me, I just like somebody by my side. So I had this friend who we were like, if you see one, you see the other one,
You see this one, you know the other one is somewhere around.
And sure, it interrupts your program.
Yeah.
I remember one time, he allows me to say this because he allowed me to write it in my book, the book that I wrote. I remember one time we were vying for, presidency, we have, roles and yes. And he stole my seat. You can imagine. So, okay, we are fighting, and people are taking his side and other people are taking mine. There was no program going on for at least 2 weeks. I tell you. And me, I fight.
You're competitive in nature.
Yeah. I mean, you don't take what belongs to me. How dare you? So
the disrespect.
For 2 weeks, really, there was no program going on. And I mean, you have 3 months. When your days are 90, go. So all of those things I lost out, I affected my program when I was there. Also, let me just say dishonest. I don't think I was very realistic about even who I was. Now that I'm so used to being rejected, I kind of say things which are not lies, but they're not quite the truth either. So my story, even just saying what job does your mom do, what job I'll embellish it, and I hadn't really come to that point of real honesty, the nitty-gritty, the good, the bad, the ugly. And this was the place to do that, because here you're not judged. Rehab, you're not judged. Nobody cares where you're coming from. We're all addicts. That's what there is. We're all addicts, whether you are drinking in Karen or whether you're drinking in Korogosha. At the end of the day, all of us are just the same. We are addicts. In any case, by the time you rehab material, you're not drinking champagne, You've really gone down and you're somewhere down there. It doesn't matter where you're coming from or where you started
drinking. Do you think that, not being honest with yourself to start with is one of the reasons that kept you going back, or maybe it was part of the reason as to why you relapsed after you left the program, that reintegrated back with the community?
Totally misunderstood.
Totally misunderstood.
Totally misunderstood. I mean, if before I felt like a peg in a round hole, then when I became an addict, it was even worse. And many people didn't know I was drinking. That's the other thing, because I became a closet drinker. Yeah, once my drinking was a lot, and I don't want to be judged or asked questions, I drank more and more in the house. So people just saw erratic, weird behavior. Now you see her, now you don't. Sometimes she's rude, sometimes she's nice, sometimes she's not there altogether, So they didn't understand me.
All right.
Anybody who knew I drank, women are not supposed to do things like this. We do not drink.
It's taboo.
Taboo, So a lot of that was going on, and I just became more and more isolated. I just said I don't want to go and make amends. Like in the movies, I think Knock Knock, Jane, remember me, I'm Brenda, I stole your chickens. I stole your chickens. It's because I was an alcoholic, and I can't replace the chickens, but here's 25,000 Kenyan shillings. You have to actually make the amend. You have to make restitution. You have to make restoration. And if I don't have it then I can make a commitment that I will.
Towards,
And people chase you away, of course, because many people don't take your word. Your word means nothing, because when you're drinking, you said
from past experience.
Many things, You promise so many things and you don't do it. Even just showing up, when you said you show up, you didn't do it. And then you feel bad in that instance, but you knew you did the right thing. And I think when people think about it again, how many people can dare show up here and try and make an amend? So they rethink things. So you're empowered to, Me, I've tried. So if you're rejecting it, that one is yours. I'm moving on to the next person.
But you individually know I tried.
I tried, and I can look you in the eye next time I saw you. You'll look down because you chased me away.
Remember. Yeah. All right. So you managed to see yourself through the second session, and you completed the whole rehabilitation time that you were there.
Yeah.
Then you got out. How was it the second time round?
The second time was much better. I went through things. I always thought, for example, we talk about reservations. What can make you drink again? I thought if I lost a loved one in death, I would drink again. But I lost my brother and I didn't drink over it. He died a slow and painful death. The one who used to follow me, I never drank over it. I was sober the whole time and able to do my duties and my things that I'm supposed to do. Because once I start drinking, I'll probably just resurrect after the funeral is over and everybody's mad at me. Many things also happened. My mom got very sick, had to be admitted. I didn't drink over that. Good things happened. My sister got married to that same person who took me to rehab. Big wedding in Serena. You see, this is your chance to drink.
It is available.
It is available. When is the next time I'll have a drink? I can afford a drink in Serena, now's the time. But I had the tools. Already going to the support group, we know that if you're going to be in such a place, I will already go to the support group and say, hey, I have an event. I know there's going to be alcohol. Speaking about
temptation,
yeah, takes the power out of it. And people are good enough. They know. People in the support group know that for us to drink is to die. It's a matter of life and death. So somebody actually came with me. He could only stay half day for the wedding thing. But when it came to the reception, another person came and was with me. So I enjoyed the whole session and never drank at all. So the second time was much better. I do remember a time when I did relapse and you Kenyans went mad and started killing each other. That was 2007.
The 2007-2008 post-election violence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there were no support group meetings. There was a lot of anxiety. I'd look out of my window and I see the army, because they're protecting status. I look in my TV and I see blood. I go downstairs to that other guy. He was now dying of cancer, so I see pain and suffering. But he used to like me to sit there. One day I just asked him, Mzee, can I have a drink? And then, yeah, he'll give me anything as long as I stay there. So I started there and I relapsed. I used to pinch the alcohol of a dying man. Can you imagine? Terrible. Anyway, so I relapsed, and at that point, that was the worst. It only gets worse. It's like 7 more demons come. If you stop drinking, you start again, but it's not punishment for God. It's just that your drinking just escalates. Like, I'm not drinking now, but if I tried, it'll be worse than how it was before.
Okay.
I call it the mother of all relapses. I lost everything, including that apartment. Ended up moving back home at 42, something like that. Yeah, but when that happened, and that was the first time I was able to talk to my parents about my drinking. All this time they never knew. They never knew I was drinking.
All.
They might have known I was drinking, but they never thought it was bad. They never knew I was in rehab. I kept all of that both times. The second time, when I told my story in the rehab, there were some mature people who said, you need to talk to your father. You need to make up with your father, And I was so mad at them. But now that I was able to come in and go out, I went and told my dad some funny story like, the reason why I'm not so available sometimes is because I live in a center. And at the end of the day, they take my phone and they take my money, so I can't really tell I'm not available. And he's like, you live in a center? He's distracted. Which center? And I say, Asumbi. And meanwhile, he's like, Asumbi? Asumbi can only mean 2 things. Either you're a teacher or rehab, and I'm not a teacher. And I'm talking really fast because I don't want to engage or
give him time to really think about it.
And I flee. But at night, he calls my big sister and says, Brenda, I have a drinking problem. So she hummed and hawed, and then she called me. The counselors used to trust me. They'd leave me with my phone. And she said, Dad's asking whether you have a drinking problem. I said, next time he asks you, say yes. Because I needed him to know, but I couldn't be the one to tell him.
Eventually.
Yeah. And eventually, after that, when I came out of rehab, I did the Landmark Forum. And it was very interesting. Even they were emphasizing you need to get right with your parents. And if you fight your parents, you fight yourself. So they gave me the tools, how I could go back and talk to my dad and tell him, okay, this is what's been going on in my life, and it's because, and this is how I viewed you. And he was sitting there, he had cleared his table, he was listening. Because he was very interested to know exactly what's going on with you and why is it like this and like that. And sometimes we hear you admitted for what? Depression, what? Admitted for what? Anxiety, what's that?
What is that?
why are you going through all these kind of things, and your parents are here and alive and well and they love you, and you know, all this kind of thing. So I was finally able to just say, okay, it was like this and it was like that.
You finally made amends.
And then my mom was just relieved to know that you mean alcohol is what is the thing that has been, you know, the big secret, you know, because she was always knowing something is up, but she had really
no idea what it was exactly.
Yeah, and imagine terrible things, you know. And so now I ended up back home, and I was telling myself this is the third rehab, because you know when you're that old and then you're living at home, you really feel hemmed in and everything. But I decided this time I gotta make it, you know.
To make it.
Yeah.
All right. So what was the big turning point this time around that redirected you to the path that you are right now, where you are a recovery coach?
Well, one big thing is that when I found that guy again, the very one who I was seeing on TV, his name is David Ogot, and I looked for him, and actually he used to come to the rehab, but when I relapsed, I didn't tell him, I just disappeared. And now I looked for him again, and he told me, look, you need to get involved. Yeah, I mean, step 12 of Alcoholics Anonymous is that you have to help the still recovering, I mean, the still suffering alcoholic. It's a paradox. We keep what we have by giving it away. If I don't help other people, I won't stay sober. So he had this thing. There was somewhere called Maisha House where he used to go. It's a drop-in center. People would come in every day, and he used to go there, and he told me, you have to come. I mean, you come every day, help us with this. And sure enough, when you see that heroin addict writhing in pain, you know, some people we call chokoras are not chokoras, by the way. That's what I discovered. They're just addicts. They come from good home, but they're dirty and whatever because of drugging and, you know, being in the street. If I see that, there's no way I'm drinking tonight, I tell you. There's no way I'm drinking. So that was, I must say, the turning point when I started to help other people. And I remember once there was a show by Sheila Hurst that he was trying to get me to go to on TV, and I said, absolutely not. I want people to know that good things about me, not that I'm an alcoholic.
Yes.
And then I was with him, and we took a patient to Madari, and I saw things I've never seen in my life, the condition of the people there. And somebody told me only 2 of these people are actually psychotic. The rest are like this because of drugs and alcohol. And I was in shock.
Wow.
And I said, if telling my story will help just one person, especially a woman, just one woman to get out of addiction, okay, I'll do it. So then I started to do it. So my real big turning point was helping other people. And when I help other people, I get out of myself. I stop thinking about, oh, poor me, you know, the self-pity, what I didn't have, what I couldn't get. And the kind of things that I see, I actually appreciate that I'm a very fortunate person. I don't see the negative, I see the positive. And when I don't have those negative self-effects, which are some of the reasons why I drink, then I don't need to drink.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Now, as we draw the conversation to a close, you know, there could be a young girl who is, you know, in her teen years or in just the young adult phase of their life, and they are struggling with some of the challenges that you maybe went through, you know, feelings of not being worth it, feeling like you are not in the right place, you're in the wrong family, I'm not accorded this yet, I want that. What would you advise them today in terms of finding a healthy way to cope with the challenges that we go through on a daily?
I will tell such a girl, certainly alcohol is not the answer. You are in the right place. You are the right person. Your being different is deliberate, because if you see a bunch of flowers and they're all the same color, they're boring. If there's a few reds and a few greens, then it's good. You're different. You're not weird. You're unique. You're in the right place at the right time. Don't feel bad about it. Build what is positive about you. Focus on what is positive about you, and people are going to appreciate it. Alcohol is not the answer. Drugs are not the answer. If you're less than 25 years old, then your brain is not even developed. So if you're drinking drug, you're just retarding your brain. You're making it even worse for yourself. There's a lot of support groups. If you call 1192, that's the NACADA helpline. It's toll-free. When you're feeling bad, call that number. You will always find a counselor. You will always find somebody to talk to. You'll find somebody who will redirect you in the right place. Look for me. I will definitely walk with you, and I will walk with you just with absolute empathy of knowing what it is like to be a little girl who doesn't seem to fit anywhere. But I promise you, there is nothing wrong with you. You are unique, you are special, you're God's child, and you just keep doing the right thing.
All right. And what about those that are also struggling with relapsing? Yes, they know it is a problem. They have gone to rehab, gone through the entire process there, coming out, getting exposed to the same environment, falling back, and, relapsing. That vicious cycle keeps going. How would you advise them to go about finding a healthier way or something that is better for them that will help them not relapse again?
Relapse means that your treatment was not adequate. So you've been treated for alcoholism, but there are other things. Many times
that
you have
needed
other
to
things.
Be addressed?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you have a personality disorder, maybe you have a mental disorder. You have depression, you have some early onset of schizophrenia, you have bipolar. All of those things were supposed to have been treated concurrently. If they were not, then you're going to keep going back to alcohol because you're actually self-medicating using alcohol.
To numb it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
To numb it all. If you're feeling depressed, you'll take some shots so that it brings you up. When you're too hyper, you're going to take a lot because alcohol then is a depressant to bring you down and let you sleep. If you go to a doctor called a psychiatrist, don't fear that name. He's just a doctor. He'll give you medication which is going to help you stabilize your moods, and you're not going to need to do that.
Okay.
Relapsing, don't judge yourself and make yourself feel bad. It just needs that you need to be treated more.
Okay.
There is a place called New Health in Kitisuru that focuses on stage 2. And they really help people who are actually relapsing a lot. You've been to rehab, but then you can't seem to maintain. So you stay there and they help you with, explore what is it. Is it your family life? Is it these things about land inheritance?
To find the root cause of what makes you keep going back.
And then takes you out of that situation into a very beautiful house and a very beautiful, environment, and they walk with you. And it's not like a rehab because you're not, locked in there. You can keep going back, making the negotiations, coming back again. And you don't walk it alone. If you try and walk it alone, you'll never make it because alcohol is too big. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. We walk together and we look for the help of a higher power as well.
All right. Now, finally, when it comes to now the family and people that surround this individual who may have gone through their fair share of challenge dealing with alcohol or any other drugs, understanding or just being conscious of what this particular individual could be going through, what would you advise the family and friends of those that surround people who have struggled with addiction?
Addiction is a family disease. This person came from your family, right? And they're coming back to your family. They have their drinking has affected you. So I'm an alcoholic, you're part of my family, you're a codependent. You're dysfunctional, even you. Yeah, my drinking has made you dysfunctional. Or maybe you're so dysfunctional that I started drinking. In any case, we need to
that
heal.
is deep.
In any case, we need to heal both of us.
Yes.
If you just send me off to a rehab and then you go on with your normal life, it's not going to work. When I come back...
And then bring you back to the same setting.
You're the same person who's going to make me relapse. Because for one thing, you don't trust me. You're going to deal with me the same way. You're going to be hiding your phone because, this is a thief, this is an addict. She might just steal my phone and I will see. I will see that. So I'm going to feel bad about that. You also need to be treated. Yeah, it's a very good... many rehabs have family day. They'll bring you in. But it's not enough. 3 months are not enough. 3 sessions are not enough. Because this person has been drinking 10 years. And probably her issues, like I'm saying, started way back then when she was a child. There's dysfunction in the whole family setup. So it needs to be continuous. The family needs to heal, same as the addict is healing. As the addict is going to places like Alcoholics Anonymous, which they must do for the rest of their lives. The family needs to go to places like Al-Anon, which helps the family, or Codependents Anonymous. And you'll find that they won't want to go. They say, I'm not sick. It's just, you're all sick. And that's not a denunciation and a death knell. And, it is just, sickness is just there for everybody. Some of it has to do with the mind. By the way, addiction is a disease.
Yeah.
And it's a disease, it's a brain disease. Yeah. So if you just look at it as a sickness, this person is sick, the same way you would take the one who has cancer for their chemo and for their whatever, the way you will take me to my physiotherapy, even when I don't feel like you're the one who's going to say, you gotta go, otherwise this leg is gone. It's the same way.
Right.
Support them, help them to get to the AA meetings, and don't judge. And then you go for your meetings, you'll judge them less when you realize working a program is not that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, your object keeps pulling you back. I keep wanting to go back to the same ways of talking and behaving. It has to be an entire change. Yeah, I can't say I've stopped drinking and yet I'm
with you.
On Facebook, I'm Atieno, Tatien. On Twitter at Brenda Ocheng. At Instagram, Brenda Ocheng.
All right. So want to continue this conversation with her, feel free to do that. I believe once she's able to get back to you, she will in good time. We have been speaking with Brenda Ocheng. She is a recovery health coach. Thank you so much once again for making time to be with us today.
Thank you very much.
This is Women at the Forefront. Again, getting to learn from the brilliant women that get to join us here on set. And we learn from their own individual journey in getting to where they are today. So that is that in regards to Women at the Forefront. But of course, we have so much lined up for you. So do stay with us. We are taking a very quick breather. We will be back with more.
In recent past, there have been reported cases of highly adulterated honey that could have serious health implications as well as economic consequences. Well, this week on The Process, we take a look at how honey is processed. A fresh batch of harvested honey is received from farmers and various suppliers.
We do some tests for if there is any adulteration in the honey.
Here, the honey is taken through a number of quality assurance tests that check, among other things, the presence of commercial sugars, moisture content, color.
So when it turns red like this, your honey is not good for human consumption, and we reject that. But if it retains its color like this is good. And also, we have our refractometer. We do check the moisture content. And the required moisture content is between 13 and 22%.
Depending on where and how the honey was harvested, it contains varied properties.
The reason why we have different colors of honey depends with the vegetation, where the bees foraged the nectar and pollen. Also, what can determine the color is mode of harvesting. If you harvest poorly, poor processing methods can affect the taste of the honey and the color. If you over smoke, maybe your honey could have been light, it will be darker. But the main reason for color in the honey is where the bees forage the pollen and the nectar and the region. You can have black, you can have white, depends on the vegetation and the season of harvest.
Once the testing is done, the honey is then weighed in preparation for the warming process.
When you finish your processing in the warmer, it cuts some certain kgs because of the dirty present in the honey. So the reason is that you should know, when doing your records, you should know how many kgs you have lost from the warmer, and during packaging, you have to lose also.
The honey is then transferred into a warmer where it is heated up for 4 hours